Welcome. I thought we'd start by just having a look at the Mishnah on Shrabbah Thomas, just because it is the Shrabbah Thomas. Nishtabaru'u were broken. Haluchot. So the tablets were broken on Shrabbah Thomas. Batel hatamid, and the tamid offering was batel. Often you'd find that phrase in the context of bittul Torah, was wasted. There's a kind of a sort of a poignancy or a sort of a savage irony in that it's the tamid. Yes, the tamid is the everlasting thing. So the sacrifice that was always brought, weekday, Shabbos, festival, everything. It's the tamid that gets lost. V'huk ba'a ha'ir, and the walls of the city were baka, were burst in upon. V'saraf apostamos et ha-Torah, and apostamos burns the Torah, and apostamos is one of the Hebrew German. One of the Roman leaders of the invasion force of the time of Shrabbah Thomas, who's mentioned in Josephus. Amid Tselem b'Heichal, and an idol was placed in the Heichal, literally hall, but here the hall of the temple.
Presumably there were a lot of people defending this the temple, and if they broke in the city, what do you call it, the breached, would they have got to the temple
immediately? No. Well,
same day.
So let me just do a kind of a line about Josephus, right? So Josephus is one of the world's great historians, and he is watching on what is going on at that time and reporting on it. Now, it is remarkably early to have a historical record like that about anything, and we've got it. So that's incredible, delight. Is he a reliable narrator? Is anybody? And then you've got this whole thing that Josephus was born Jewish, wanted to valorize Judaism, but then went over to the Romans. So he's a very complicated person to try and work out what exactly he is and he isn't doing. But when you read Wars Against the Jews, Josephus's Wars, which by the way is just a fantastic read, it's an absolute rip-roarer. You get this sense they were fighting street by street through through the old city. I mean, La Havdil, but they finally kicked ISIS out of Mosul. And
because they were fighting street by street, the time they broke the walls, it's unlikely that at the same day, the 17th of Tammuz, they would have got into the temple.
Oh, the temple was destroyed on the 9th of Av. So it's the beginning of a 3-week period. So, I mean, exactly what happened there, I don't know. And actually, I don't know my Josephus quite well enough to know if he kind of documents that. It's not really talked about in any great detail in rabbinic texts. It's kind of the sort of thing that one, is just assumed to know. But of course, this sort of massive passage of time means that the things that we're assumed to know, we don't know.
But of course the Mishnah was written a couple of hundred years later, so
they were redacted. Right? I mean, so they would have been held in. They would have been held in oral form for a lot longer than that. I mean, certainly a Mishnah like this, and it would have served as a kind of mnemonic. That you would have these things, and then there would be an extended oral history about each of those things, but those things weren't included in the Gemara. And then again, I just thought I would bring the Mishnah Torah. So this is Rambam, who goes through the entire Talmudic corpus and just sort of tries to just set these things in context. What is a fast? Yesh sham yamim shkol Yisrael mit'anim. There are these days when all of Israel are ta'anim, fasting, bahem. Mipnei hatzora shehiru bahem, because of the woes that have happened to them. K'dei lahorer haluvavot ufoter darchei hatshuva, in order to arouse their hearts and to open the ways of tshuva. Vayizeh zichron l'ma'asenu haroim u'ma'aseh avotenu shahaya k'ma'asenu ata. And there is a memory for this, for our contemporary bad practice, and a memory of the failings of our ancestors. Shigaram lehem v'lanu otzot tzarot, which caused for them and for us these tzarot. Nice kind of chiastic thing for Maimonides. We remember our wicked practice and their wicked practice, which caused the destruction of the temple, which therefore causes our contemporary bad things. So it's a really classic bad things happen to bad people piece of text. Ubezichron devarim elu nashuv lahativ, and from the remembering of these things we will return and we will get better. Shneimar, as it says, v'hitvada et avonam et avon avotam. And this, by the way, is the only biblical source on. This is the only Doraita mitzvah, biblical commandment around tshuva. That's in his opening of Hilchot tshuva, which is a really important early part of the Mishnah Torah. Rambam says, and there is in this issue of tshuva only one mitzvah. There is only one biblically attested commandment which kind of falls into the whole category of tshuva, which is the mitzvah or vidui of confession, as in this verse from Leviticus, "V'hitvadu et avonam," you shall do a vidui.
Are we responsible for the transgressions of our ancestors?
No. So what he's saying here, what he's saying here is that we do this. So the two things that he says, why do we do this? Is lo'orer halavavot. We do it to awaken the hearts, upoter darchei tshuva, and to open the ways of tshuva for us. That we remember the bad things that happened to them that were deserved. Go with that. We remember those things in order to inspire us, prod us to do better ourselves and to do tshuva ourselves. The whole point of these observances is a contemporary point. The point isn't a historical point. That's quite Rambamian. It's not how you would see everybody talk about that. But it's about making us better. Which there's always some space for. I've got space for me to make me better. For sure. I only have one copy of this, I'm afraid. But we are on Kuf Ayin at the beginning of Parashat Yud Bet. I mean, I can say 170. I'm not sure if that helps. Do you want a little sticky? You can have a little sticky, and you can use it forevermore. And all that.
Oh, I see. Right.
My little sticky is still doing remarkably well. It's lost most of its stickiness. It's just about hanging in there. So we've talked about this before. The beginning of a parasha in Bereishit Rabba, we would expect to see a petichta. We'd expect to see the verse from afar. It is, I think, indeed understandable that this could be the beginning of a lectionary reading. In other words, in the kind of triennial way that the Torah was read in Eretz Yisrael in the rabbinic period, that they stopped at the end of the first story of creation. 1, 2, come in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then Vayachulu, and then end.
Yeah.
Just noting that the Christian chapter and verse numbering. The Christian numbering. We are in verse 4 of chapter 2, but when you look at it Jewishly, there is a peticha, a open paragraph break at this point. So I think that the Vayachulu passage is better seen as the end of chapter 1 rather than the beginning of chapter 2. But those numbers are not Jewish. Lester, would you lead us off?
So the biblical verses, Eila Todot HaShemayim Va'aretz B'hi Bara'am. These are the generations of the heaven and the earth when they were born. Ketiv Eov, so he's quoting a verse from Eov. Hein Eila Ketzot Drachav.
So just I've given you the full verse on the handout, and let's just do the full verse now because we'll need all of the
Ein
it.
Elek Ksot Rachav, these are the boundaries or the limits of
Right,
of
Ket
the
at the end.
ways.
Yeah.
Uma Shemetz Davar Nishma Bo Vira'am Gevurotav Miyit Bonein. Shemetz Davar. I'm not sure.
Whisper.
Is that a whisper? Okay. And what kind of a whisper of the things do we hear, and the mightiness of him who will understand.
Right. So as I look at the world, in order for me to understand the kind of the true power of God, everything that I see in the world is a shemetz davar. It's a tiny element of understanding the creative power of God. The creative power of God is so much beyond my own bina, my own levels of understanding.
So that's why he uses ktsotz. We're just looking at the outer edge or something.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
The periphery. Yeah.
We've just started reading this verse. So we're actually going to do this in a couple of bits, right? So we've so far we've only had the hen ela kutsot devarav, but we'll get the rest of it as we go
Amarav
through.
Huna, kol ma she'ata ro'eh ktsot devachav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu ein. Everything that you see in the world is really only the tiniest fraction of what God had done.
Right, I mean it's glacier, right? The thing that you see is the small part which is above the water.
The
right?
iceberg.
I can say glacier. I meant iceberg. Yeah, completely. Sorry. Yes, absolutely.
And from the pasuk it says, "Hen ela ketzot rachav uma shemetz davar nishma bo b'ra'am geburta." Well, that's miyat bonei.
So now comes the rest of the verse.
And that's what we just read. The whisper of his things that you can hear, but the mighty power you can't understand. Who can understand?
Good.
Amarav Huna, Hara'am Hazeh, this thunder or might,
thunder.
B'shah sheyotze ketikumno, ein kol bria yechola la'amod alav. This mightiness or this power, this thunder, that as the hour that
at the
things
time,
are
at the moment
arranged,
when it goes out, as God's kind of adjustment to the world, right? When God sends out a thunderous adjustment to the world,
Ein kol bria yechola la'amod alav. No creature can possibly stand before it or deal with it or tolerate it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when God decides, so tikkun. I think we've over romanticized that word, and so we have to sort of strip back all the romanticization to understand it. But when God sends out a thunderbolt, just like you can't stand it. Yeah, just get out of the way.
Mitbonein ein kativ kan ella yitbonein. So
Right.
it's not using the present tense; it's using the future.
Yeah, I mean
don't
it's
understand
rather confusing, right? This took me a while to sort of play around here. In the commentary, they start suggesting that it's about
Yachid,
lashon rabin and
Yachid.
lashon
Yachid.
yachid, but that doesn't actually make sense in the context of the verse. So I think what the midrash meant to say, and it's been garbled in the manuscript tradition, is me. A yit bonanim, right? When God sends out a fire, when God sends out the thunder of God's might, who are all these people who understand it? In other words, is it Sue and Bill and Bob and Robert and all these kind of various people? It doesn't say that. It says the verse says Am gvoratav mi abonen. Who could possibly understand it? So I mean, it's just a pshat. I mean, Lester translated it, entirely perfectly the first time around. But I think what this Midrash is trying to do is to sensitize us to the fact that the verse says you can't understand it,
Right.
rather than there are a bunch of people who do understand it. It's a fine and perhaps not the most desperately needed Midrash of all time.
הפיקחים יודעים רימוזו והגיונו. The selected ones.
Yeah.
The,
Right, so
the
if it had have been in the plural, then you would have thought that there were pekichim. This is just one of the like special people.
Special people.
Right, there were these kind of special few people who could indeed yodim rimuzo vehegyono. They could understand
the hints behind it, or the essence of it. I don't
right.
know.
The remez is a hint, and a hegyon is
Arrangement.
logic, right? The reasoning behind it. So he's trying to suggest that this verse from Job is worded in a specific way to make sure that you know that you couldn't possibly understand it, that nobody understands it, nobody gets a remez of it, nobody gets a hint of it. That's because it says mi yitbonen. Had it have said mi yitbonanim, or I don't know.
What is the verse from Job?
You've got it there.
You got it there. So it's this verse. Hein elakatsot devarav. Behold, these are the very edges of God's darchav, of God's actions. You can't hear a whisper of it. Am gavoratam miyet bonen. And the thunder of God's might. Who could possibly understand it?
Okay, Amar Rav Huna. Im al sidro shel ra'am ein ata yachol la'amod, al seder shel olam alachat kama v'kama. If you can't even understand the
Meaning.
the thunder,
Yeah.
surely you can't understand how the whole structure of the whole world.
Right.
Alachat kama
I mean, here we
v'kama.
go, right? and as we
It's
speak,
about time.
it's
too.
tipping it down. So well done for those of you who are on time, and please God it will pass within the within the next kind of 40 minutes. Otherwise, I'm afraid it'll be a soggy route home. Right, good.
Then he says, Et maha.
Well, Etmaha is the end of that, right?
Oh.
You know, I'll say Shalom Ataka Chama V'Chama Etmaha.
Okay. Ve'im yomar lecha adam yachol ani la'amor al sidro shel olam. And if somebody should say to you, I can certainly stand and understand the structure of the world, or something like that,
Yep.
Amorlo, tell him, Acharei melech basar v'adam ata yachol la'amod. You can't even stand before an ordinary human king. Acharei melech malchei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu ata yachol la'amod et maha. The fact that you can't even stand up to a mortal king, how on earth can you imagine that you might be able to stand up before God, hakadosh baruch hu?
I mean, the rabbi's relationship with the Melech Basar V'Dam is so interesting, right? Because on the one hand, all our mashalim are on the basis of a Melech. You know, on the other hand, the reality of Melech, as known to the people of this time, was the baddie, and so in some ways they're taking the Melech Basar V'Dam and trying to show their patheticness, right? So that Titus Rufus with his, with the wasp up the nostril. Thought you'd remember that.
That's a great. I mean, it's a reaction against the whole Roman civilization.
Right. So on the one hand, they're trying to sort of big up the idea of kingship. On the other hand, they're trying to push down the idea of kingship. So, I mean, I think, a kind of a Spinozan thing is, let me rebel against this God, right? Let me not put on my tefillin, and let's see this God try and kind of take me on. So the response is, you think you're rebelling against this God? How can you possibly say that you can understand what it means to rebel against this God? Because you can't rebel
even against the Roman Emperor.
The Roman Emperor. So the order of the power is just being continually sort of flipped and looped one on top of the other. Because if the ground opens me up, then this turns out not to be the case. But it might be that the world would not be made worse if I did have a bacon sandwich, right? So what they're really trying to say is, learn not to have a bacon sandwich from your inability to rebel against the Roman Empire. It's quite a sort of a twisted logic there.
Well, I can smell my show coming up.
Good.
Can I just add that when you came to that point, the point that you can't rebel against God, it's good not to have this. That's First Samuel, when the children of Israel asked God for a king because of the misbehavior of what is his name?
Eli.
Samuel's children. Yeah, God said, so you've rejected me as king, your king. Okay, I can give you kings out of Israel, but they will do this to you, they will do that. And King David is an example, Solomon, and all the other kings, even Athaliah, the woman who murdered the children, because he was queen.
Right, so the kings are indeed really, really complicated. Yes. Yes, all right. Yeah.
Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said, Mashal, lahacharishat kanim, shelo haya yachol adam hikanet b'tzocha.
Right.
So if there's a big thicket of brambles or, with thorns, and you can't possibly, nobody can walk through it.
Good. Well done for Harisha. I just gave you Harisha. The root is interesting, is to plough. So it's kind of interesting that it's one of those words which means both its thing and its opposite, because a thicket is the very opposite of a plough, right? Yeah, good.
Shekol mi shehaya nichnas l'tocha haya to'eh. Anybody who would try to walk through it would certainly be mistaken, but I think he'd be damaged, but that's not what it says.
I think the point is, and we'll see it because there's another mashal coming which is doing something similar. I think the point is that I wouldn't necessarily imagine the thorns that would rip your skin and buy you every turn. I would imagine kind of going into one of these kind of tall cornfields, where you go into the cornfield and you just can't see anything, and within a fraction of a moment you've lost bearings. You turn around, you turn this way, you turn that way, and you're completely sunk. That will certainly make this mashal match with the next mashal. Come in.
Hi. Sorry, I'm terribly.
Hi, Tasha. Welcome. Grab a chair. Let me work out what's a sensible thing for you to look over.
You look over Lester's.
Is that right? If the two of you, yeah. We are.
Is this the same word that for the acacia? The ram that was caught in the thicket?
It wasn't caught in cunning, it was caught in reeds are oh gosh, the ram is caught in
thicket.
it's a thicket. It's a different word. It's just a different word.
Okay.
Let me just bring Dasher up to where we are. Hi. So we are looking at a verse which is talking about the creation of everything, and we are looking at it from the perspective of another verse in Job, which is this verse here, which says, "How extraordinary is everything that God's created! You can't work out anything about it at all." We've done a little bit on this, and we are now into what is called a mashal. Katsim. Svach, different word. And we're now into a mashal, which is a parable, where an idea will be explained to us in kind of human terms, and we're supposed to get the religious term about it. This is an unusual mashal. Most of these parables that we've done, first you get the mashal, and then you get the nimshal. So they say, mashal, there's a king who builds a palace. Nimshal, that's God who built the world. This is slightly unusual because we get the mashal, we then get another mashal, but we don't get a direct nimshal. We'll have to work that out ourselves. But Lester, will you just go back to Amar Rav Nachman, which is
Amar Rav Nachman, mashal lahacharishat kanim, shelo haya yachol adam lehikanes betocha. It's a thicket of reeds that a person can't really go into it. Shekol mi shehaya nichnas betocha haya toeh. Anybody who went into it's a bit like a maze in a way, isn't it? It's high reed, so you can't tell where you're going, and you would make a mistake. Toa does mean make a mistake, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think also lost, right? So yeah.
Ma'asa pikeach echad kasach b'nichnas nichnas derech hakasuach v'yatza derech hakasuach. So somebody who tried to walk through.
So the pikeach. Do you remember? This is the pikeach with his back. We just met the
one of the
pikeach.
select people.
Yeah, a really smart person
tried to enter the thicket and got lost.
No.
He came back
What is
out
it?
the
He
same way.
he stands at the edge of this thing of reeds. He cuts down some reeds and he goes in a bit. He cuts down some reeds and he goes in a bit. Right. So, right. Kasach v'nichnas, cuts and enters. Kasach v'nichnas, cuts and enters. Nichnas derech kasach. He goes in. He makes a kind of a path for himself.
Uh-huh. Okay, so it's not actually going into the thicket itself.
He goes into. Well, he goes in.
Unthicketizing the thicket.
Exactly. And he yotzeh derech hakasuach.
Tiki normally looks like white sheep. A tree, then
Reeds. It's just reeds.
Reeds. Oh, okay. But
So kanim is reeds.
Ticket.
Yeah. No. So I think thicket is not a helpful word to me.
Good. Yeah.
Because
Because when Abraham couldn't, God spoke to him and said, "Don't sacrifice Isaac." He said, "Look there."
Yeah.
The ram
yeah, we
said-
just looked it up. That's a different
Yeah.
word.
Uh-huh.
So I think think tall. Think tall reeds. It's there is marshy, boggy stuff going on up in the Hula Valley, up in the Galilee. I mean, this is this is not an unusual. Where is it? It's that amazing bird reserve up in the north of Israel. What's it called? I forget. In the Hula Valley. It's an amazing bird reserve, and there are just masses and masses of these reeds. It's just all 10 feet high. You're going through the middle of that, and that's it. You have no idea whether you're coming in or out. If you want to come out the same way you went in, you cut the reeds down as you go, and then you've put a path in, and then you can put a path out.
Yes, just to say this as well, you use the word plow at a point. Plow.
Yeah, only just sharing what the root of that
Because
word
at
is.
a point when Judah was being prayed for, he said, "Judah shall plow."
That's a whole other story. That's okay. So we're now going to get a different mushroom.
התחילו הכל
Oh, sorry.
מתכנסים ויוצאים דרך כסוח.
So once the first person has made a path,
then everybody can make use of it and get their way through the
path. Right.
But where's
good,
the
good.
mashal?
Where's the nimshal?
Where's the nimshal?
Well, let's do the other one and then we'll
Okay.
work it out.
Okay. Rav Nachman Omar Chori mashal lefalatin gedola shehayu lo p'tachin harbei. There's a mashal of
So it's a
Pal-
mashal
a large
chori.
palette.
I did this chori. No. It's just on the reverse side of that.
Yeah.
I hadn't come across this term before, and actually there is a So it comes from the same root of ahor, but it's another mashal.
Another mashal.
Right, so,
Okay.
so let me give you davar acher, right, would be how we
Davar.
would normally do it, but this is a slightly different phrase. So chori mashal, so another mashal.
The palatin gedola, a large palace, shehayu lo petachin harbei, that there were many doors, shekol mi shehaya nechnas letocha haya toeh. Similarly, you can go into this house labyrinth. Yeah. Me'asa pikeach echad. What did this select person do? Natal pikaat shel gemi ukashara. It sounds like a fairy tale. Now.
Does indeed.
He took a little bit of gomi and he tied it next to the door. V'nechnas derek hapakaat.
So here's the big Jastro bonus, right? Absolutely, right? Big Jastro bonus here, right? He took a clue. He took a clue of rope.
Coil. A
coil, right? A clue of thread. I don't know. That's what
Maybe it's Old
my
English.
problem here is I don't understand the English. Took a clue of rope, tied one end of it to the entrance, and went in along the unwound route. Yeah, Theseus and the Minotaur. It's completely Theseus and the Minotaur.
But they knew the story of Theseus and the
Right.
Minotaur.
Right. I think
Corner
so,
rope.
I think it's also Hansel and Gretel.
That's breadcrumbs.
Well,
Yeah,
not
it's the same
originally,
idea.
but not originally, right?
Right.
Not originally. Originally, it was rope. So I think that So what do we do about this? Just to sort of step into a little conversation about morality and folk tales. This is the way that these stories work. Is that these ideas are out there and they get rolled one from another. This is a lot less worked through than Theseus and the Minotaur and the Hansel and Gretel thing. It's predicated on the basis that that this works with rope. Do you know any stories like this from Russia?
You meant the bellows?
Well, no, when you tie a rope, you to find your way through a complicated maze.
You leave a trail of stone.
You leave
and trail to get back
endless
again.
stories.
Endless stories,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
You know,
like yeah, endless stories.
and it's just interesting to see how all these things happen. There is this there's a categorization of all these stories, and you can kind of look them up. I forget who did it, but stories of finding your way with a rope.
It's
Subcategory.
prop, isn't it? The morphology of the folk tale.
That's it.
Prop.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, and then there would be the subcategory of finding over the rope, brackets, gone wrong, brackets, and you can sort of look all that kind of stuff up. I mean, every now and again, I remember coming across a story that I've done from the Bimmer here a couple of times of the bird in the hand. And they say, is the bird alive or dead? And if the person says that it's
I think it's uncertainty.
kind of.
No, it's Schrodinger's
Schrodinger's cat, right? Which is based on Heisenberg.
Right.
But that if the person says that it's alive, then you kill the bird, and if he says it's dead, then you let the bird go. And the correct answer is the answer lies in your hands, which is a brilliant. It's just brilliant. Now it is a midrash, and when I first read that midrash, I was like, it's just odd. It just doesn't feel like a rabbinic story. So I kind of went trying to find this sort of morphology of folktales, and sure enough, there it is. Bird in hand, dead or alive. And there are
They must be in common in the surrounding culture.
It's a Delphic oracle. It's one of the kind of Delphic oracles.
Yeah.
So you can, if you're particularly, if you want to, you can say, well, who got it first and who borrowed it from who. But I think it's just interesting just to see the sort of permeation of these kinds of motifs across different societies. Yeah, so really, what we've just done is the same mashal.
Same mashal.
Yeah, I mean, so once the route has been set out, do you want to just finish this?
So anyone afterwards can make use of this trail through the house if they want to, and it's the same mashal.
Right. So that's the end of that, and we don't have the nimshal. So here we go. What is the nimshal? So we have to identify all the various different people. Let's do the second one first, because the second one is much more common to us, right? We haven't really had reed beds before, but we have had palaces, right? So what's the palace? The world, right? So therefore the constructor of the palace is God, or the owner of the palace is God, right? So so here we have God's world, where if you were to just blunder in and out of the world, you would get lost. But if a pekeach goes through and puts this thread, then you can follow the pekeach. So who is the pekeach? I will give you a clue. Who is telling this story? What category of person is telling this story?
Rabbi.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think this is a mashal about how wonderful rabbis are. Which obviously I would agree with. But so if you were to try and make your way in the world by yourself, right? If you were to think that you could understand the world yourself, you're going to get lost. But if you rely on the path, so now we can do the move between the thicket and the palace, carved out for you by a pekeach, or set down for you by a pekeach, then you can find your way in and out. And I'm just slightly reminded of the famous story of the four who go into Pardes, right? Rabbi Akiva is the only one who kind of succeeds in this, but he goes in peace and he comes out in peace. That's what you're trying to do with such version of our lives as we are granted.
I wonder if this is also a dig at the Sadducees, who felt that you could read the Torah yourself and understand exactly what it was about. Of course, the rabbis said, no, you've got to interpret the Torah. It's not exactly what it means. And so, again, you need the rabbis to lead you through the palace.
But they had the Sadducees this time.
They would have had Sadducees.
Yes,
whether or not the Sadducees are quite the Karaites in the way that Leicester is suggesting.
But the Talmud often refers to the
Karaites as Karaites. As Karaites and Sadducees. Yeah, for sure. I mean, certainly. I think it's. I don't know if it's necessarily that. I would have expected some little nod to. I mean, there's nothing about oral Torah. There's no oral Torah here. But it's definitely about a Salach HaRav, right? That you should find yourself a pekeach who can and
Lead your
follow
way through.
follow their path. This is definitely not about finding your own direction. This is not a great. This midrash is not going to play big in reform circles, right?
And it's also some thoughts about the Hasidic interpretation that you need to find a rabbi,
Yeah.
and then just be copy
Well,
what
the
you
rabbis
need.
do.
And absolutely right. You could almost imagine a version of this mashal. There is a minefield. And if you tread on the mine, then you will get. What do? You follow behind the pekel, and if he puts his foot on this little pit, you put your foot on this little bit. So all of those kinds of ideas which exist within Judaism about you follow the path of the person that's gone before. This is that's what is going on here.
So, Amar Rab Shimon ben Yochai, Mashal lemelech basar v'dam. This is a parable for a human king. Shebana palatin v'habriot nichnasim letocha. He's built this palace, and the people enter into it. V'omrim ilu haya ha'amudim gvohin hayetana'a. If amudim are columns, or
Yeah, columns. Good. Right? They so there's this palace, and people walk into the palace, and what's the first thing the people do in the palace? That pillar should be a little bit higher.
it's not really quite up to scratch.
Yeah. If I was doing this, so that pyramid. If I was doing it.
Ilu haya hakotlim gvohim hayetana'a. It'd be more beautiful if the walls were a bit taller.
Yep.
Ilu hayeta tikra gvoha. Tikra means
Ceiling, roof.
ceiling.
Well, I mean, so yeah,
Same thing. Hayeta na'a. So that's what somebody would say. Shema yavo adam v'yomar.
So that's the mashal. So here's the nimshal.
Usually Shema means one
Less,
fears
one
less.
fears, yeah. Well, it's now we're now getting the idea of what that is, right? So that's the mashal. So now here is the real version of what tends to happen in the world.
Yavo adam v'yomar ilu hayali shalosh einayim. If I had 3 eyes, ilu hayali shalosh raglayim hayayafeli etmaha. So would a person ever say, looking at God's creation of people, it would have been so much better if I had 3 legs or 3 eyes? Is that it?
Yes, right. So I think what this midrash is trying to suppress. I mean, it's very interesting, and in some ways, it's a critique on a very modern attitude. The kind of person who goes around the world and goes, well, maybe God's not all that great.
The high tech.
Say
like
what?
Modernization.
Yeah, I don't think it's about operating against. I don't think this is that kind of Jehovah's Witness sort of thing. If someone's got a cut, then you just let them
No,
bleed
no,
out.
I'm talking about the constant
Improvement.
search for new gadgets and update of everything and new versions.
I think this is probably about earthquakes, volcanoes, storms, acts of God. There's sort of in thunder. Thunder is the big thing that's sort of that's driving all of this. How come there's this? I mean, that doesn't prove that God's X, Y, and Z.
So is he saying that man might actually say that God's not so great because I really could have used another?
One here would have been great. Like I could have.
Well, one at the tip of your finger, so you could look in without having to crawl on the floor. You could look and see if you've dropped something.
Right. So we could do all kinds of stuff. We could.
On the other hand.
That's very good. Yes. So you can always get up there and critique, but you know what? Like, it's not your palace. That's gonna be where
Okay, et asher kvar asahu lo ne'amar kan ella et asher kvar asahu. So he's quoting something from Kohelet.
Here it is. Over here.
Ufaniti ani lerot chokhmah. I turned around to see wisdom, v'holelot v'sichlot, and madness and stupidity. כי מה האדם שיבוא אחרי המלך את אשר כבר עשהו.
So
Repeating,
yeah. So the point is et asher kava asahu lo nema kan ella et asher kava asahu. So again, I'm slightly confused because the thing that it says that it isn't saying is precisely
what it says.
that it says. So I think that again, and I'd have to look at the text. Here we go. Let me see if this is here in the commentary. Asuhu. In Kohelet it says Asuhu. So it doesn't say the thing which he made. It doesn't say, but rather the thing which they made. So and I turn myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly. For what can man do that comes after the king, even after that which they have already done, rather than he has already done? In other words, the things that you don't, the things that God did, you don't mock, but the things that you did are rubbish. Maybe this is your point about high tech, right? All these things that we've done in order to save us time. What do we find ourselves doing but running around even more quickly?
כביכול מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ובית דינו נמנין על כל עבר ועבר משלך.
Yep.
That the
I'm sorry, I've got that wrong. I'm sorry, I've got that wrong. Which they have done. So the things that God did, it seems to say. So the problem of citing this verse from Kohelet is it seems to suggest et kol asher kavar asuhu, that they made these things. Mm-hmm. This seems to suggest that they, i.e. a plurality, made things. That seems to suggest the possibility of a plurality of gods, right? This is so we've raised this problem by schlepping in this verse from Kohelet, which frankly we didn't need to schlep in. We've raised there a problem of there being multiple creators up there, so we need to now solve that problem.
So I was talking about God and his bet
dino, right? So the God has a bet din. I don't know who is this. The malachim.
An angelic bet din or a human bet din?
It's an angelic bet din, but yeah. We get the problem has been raised in order to be solved.
Don't we talk about humans being co-partners with God?
Yeah, but I think this is
also we he's the ultimate guide behind human beings. So
yes. I mean, I don't know. Weirdly, I very rarely find these particular midrashim really exciting.
This one is sort of weaker than usual, isn't it?
It's just not a great midrash, I'm afraid. I mean, I quite like the read bank and the ideas. I mean, it's not religiously somewhere where I go myself, but it's fairly well done. But it didn't have the nimshal with it. I mean, I am not aware of stuff being written on these midrashim being less worked through maybe than others. But I don't think this is not one of my all-time favorite midrashim.
Okay.
Ma'amadicha al machoncha.
שנאמר, על אדוני תגמלו זאת עם נבל ולא חכם, הלא הוא אביך, כנך הוא עשך ויכונך. This is Moses' song in Haazinu, where he is making sure people are aware that
they should do what they're told.
Yeah.
But the real point about this is that it is in the singular, right? Whereas Kohelet suggests that there is God and God's bet din, madichan, setting you up, machoncha, and your stuff of life. Shne'emar, it says, and God redeemed. They redeem God for this, for you silly people who aren't very clever, because isn't hu avicha konecha, isn't the one singular God your av and your daddy and you're the one who owns you, hu asacha uchin b'yechonenecha, that God made you and set you up. So it's just proving that it is who, and not hem and not many.
Carry on?
Yeah.
Okay. Om Rab Levi Bar Chayata. Melech Basar Badam Boneh Palatin. So another human king builds a palace. Ve'im Natan Biva al Pitcha. I don't know what beef is.
You need your second piece of paper. Sorry about that.
Beef is it's a channel.
Yeah, so we've got the Jastro. You've got the Jastro bonus here. Can you see where it says here Jastro Rabba section 12? Bivha al Pitcha. It's water spout over its entrance.
So like a gargoyle?
No, Ibid, man's spout, nose. Right. So the issue is here that the nimshal will be that we've got our nose on top of our petach. So God has built a paltin. So what's the paltin is the mashal. What's the nimshal for the paltin this time?
Being.
The human being, right? God builds a palace, and God puts the gutter right on top of the doorway. Is that a smart place to put the gutter?
I mean, like a gargoyle spitting out water when it rains, so that
Well,
when
it's
you
not.
walk
I don't think
in through
it's
the
a
door-
gargoyle. It's the gutter.
Gotcha.
That the gutter pours out. So rain falls on the roof. Rain runs down the roof, and comes along the gutter and comes off the building, right over the main door.
You mean the exit from the gutter? The
The
spout.
spouts, the beef, as we are now to call it, right? So
Well, that's what I meant by a gargoyle, because usually the gargoyles have where the gutter ends, the water spits out over the.
right, but you wouldn't necessarily put that over the.
Well, yeah.
Bad architect.
Yeah.
Yes. However, so a normal.
Natan biva al pitcha eno na'eh.
Right.
That would be a silly thing for a human king to do.
Yes. However.
Ella melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu bara ha'adam hazeh v'natan bivo al pitcho v'hu na'eh v'hu shivko. So God has made humans with their spout on top of their mouths, and that's fine, and that's good.
I mean, it's so backwards. It's actually, it's a very low quality midrash, right? So, on the basis that we find human beings attractive, it must be that having the beav over the petach is beautiful. But actually, that doesn't prove that having the beav over the petach is a smart idea. I mean, the reason I think that the beav goes over the petach is so that you can get both going down you can get air going down both from the back of one or the other. And because when you taste food, you're using both olfactory and taste buds. But it therefore...
Well, that just reinforces the mashal, the nimshal.
Say more?
That was really clever.
That it was
God
clever.
to have
Right,
built it this way.
maybe. But I mean, I think, I don't know. Yes, maybe that's it. Maybe I am applying
Even
this
more
better
clever,
version.
maybe.
Yeah.
Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Maryon, Ketiv. And now he's quoting from the
I did
Bereishit.
preview this.
Vayitza Adonai Elohim et ha'adam. And Adam Vayiftach bi'apav ruach nishmat chayim, and he put in his nose the breath of life. Vayiha Adam nefesh chaya, and the man was a living being. Vayita Adonai gan, or Elohim gan.
Sorry, I knocked out God's name so that I can.
Okay, so we can.
use them.
And the Lord God planted a garden in front of Eden, or Mikedem is eastward. Vayasam sham et hadam asher yatzar, and he put in the garden the man which he had created.
So the problem with this is that it says Vayitzer rather, and then it then says Asher Yatzar. So it says that God made this, and it then said this thing that God made. Well, that's tautological, right? Which is a problem. This repetition.
So it gives you enough opportunity
to do a little bit of midrash. Yeah.
To say it's not a repetition at all.
Exactly.
Why did it bother say again that he made? כביכול הקדוש ברוך הוא מתגאה בעולמו ואומר ראו בריאה שבראתי בצורה שיצרתי. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu can wander about in his world?
No, take pride. Right, so Kivyachol is one of the most interesting rabbinic words ever. Rabbi Louis Jacobs wrote an article on Kivyachol, which actually I put into the first edition of Quest that I did, Quest Volume 3. So Kivyachol, it's almost as if, so we're about to say something about God which is blasphemous. It's partly blasphemous because it's too human, but it's also partly blasphemous because the thing that we are about to say is not quite the done thing for a God. So, for example, the story when it says that God wants to destroy the children of Israel, it says it's like a king who wants to murder his son, Kivyachol. You know, like you know, they have to kind of say it, but they use this Kivyachol to sort of allow.
So it's
them.
almost as if, rather than making it into a mashal.
Right. Well, yeah, yes. They're not going to do a mashal on it, but they're about to say something about God, which might just be seen as just a bit too basar v'dami, a bit too mortal and corporeal, and suggesting a slightly not appropriate behaviour. What's the not appropriate behaviour? To be ga'ah is to be prideful, which is of course one of the great kind of seven sins. But here you have God being proud of God's creation. Specifically, what is God creating at this point? The man, right? Or the human, the Adam. So that it's to say as if God was proud of God's creation. And he said, everybody, look at the Bria Shebarati, repeat, and the Tzura Sheyitzar, and the Yitzura Sheyitzarti, and the creation that I created. God is so excited by having finally pulled off this exquisite miracle of the human being that God is unable to stop God's self from being a little bit repetitious. It's an amazing midrash. The God is so excited by having. I mean, I get this with my daughter. You know, daddy, look. I said, yeah, you know. I said, no, look. Right? You know, it's like, yeah, and the blue is, you know, but God is really excited and is calling out, and this is presumably again to this sort of angelic host, saying, look what I've done. Why is there a repetition? Because God's chuffed.
It's charming.
It's charming.
Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Maryon, Ketiv Eile Toldot HaShemayim V'Haaretz B'Hi Bara'am. Again, quoting this is the genealogy of the heaven and earth as they were created. Bora'an Mishabachan Umi Meganan Bora'an Mikalsan Umi Noten Behen Dofi Elana In. Let's see what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Who created them is Mishabchan, is
so when it says, when it talks about, you know, these are the generations of the earth, in the God created them. God created them and Shabchan and praised them. And so who are going to be the people who are creating and praising them? And who will noten behem dofi, and who will find in them? That's a Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur liturgy word. Dofi is a failing, a flaw. And then Na'im Ella. So you know, so God created them, protected them, guards them, praises them. Who's going to find fault in them? Right. That's that kind of what do you call it, a rhetorical question. Rather, what should you do? Sorry, not what should you do, but what exactly are they? Are they flawed? No, they're na'in hen. Meshubachin hen. They're beautiful and beautiful. Shneimar.
Ela toldot hashmayim v'aretz b'hi bara'am b'yom asot Adonai Elohim eretz v'shamayim.
The world's beautiful and great. Yeah. As it says, these are the generations of the creation the heavens and the earth in their creation on the day that God made them, the earth and the heavens.
Where does it get the fact that they're Meshubachin and?
Oh, God's excited. Why is the repetitious language?
Oh, I see.
Repetitious
So
language.
it's still on the
It is my daughter.
It's
Look. I made this. It is that God is praising them. That the repetitious language is God's excitement about them.
But you wouldn't expect the rabbis to say it, to express it that way, would you?
Kivyachol. Kivyachol, as if. It's that kivyachol. That kivyachol allows them to see in God's behaviour. Kivyachol, God is behaving like my 5-6-year-old daughter. I mean, she is 6, but she doesn't do that as much as she did when she was 5. Kivyachol, as if. Literally, yachol, possible, as if it would be possible to say such a thing. Like, it's not really that. I think that'll do for today. It's a midrash setting up that the earth is good and that we can't understand it, and that if you want to make your way safely in the world, get yourself a rabbi who can, cut down
Track your progress.
Yeah. I think they charge you for progress. Thank you. We are back next week, and then we're back the week after, and then the week after that, Tisha B'Av, we'll do something straight after Shachrit. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lester.
Thanks,
Get wet.
Yes, I did.
No, we're done. Yeah, we're done with those.
To start from my house.
Yeah. It's quick.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.